We made it to episode 10 of season 2 of Severance. This episode entitled Cold Harbor. Alright, now we start out where we left off with Mark at a cabin with Cobell and Devon. It's a cabin where women give birth. Mark is confused as to why Cobell and Devon are there, and all Cobell wants to know is if he finished Cold Harbor, which he hasn't, which means that they can still save Gemma. Now, Cobell mentioned the dark hallway, and Mark knew what she was referencing thanks to Irv. He knew how to get there. Back at Lumen with Helly and Mr. Egan, he mentions Helly's speech from the night she switched with Helena. He's all mesmerized by it, but Helly just called his ass weird, which, yes. Now, Mr. Egan then proceeds to tell Helly that he does not love Helena, that he did when she was younger because he saw Kier in her, but that changed as she got older. Kier truly is God to them all. Egan says he sires others in the shadows, which, girl, that could mean so many things, but he didn't see Kier in them either. He did, however, see Kier in Helly. Now, bitch, the whole time? Or is he just now realizing that he sees Kier in Helly? Either way, Helly ain't for the shit and told him that he and his family are gonna burn in hell. Girl, Egan was only turned on by this, saying that tomorrow is a special day as he walks away. Back to Mark, Cobell, and Devon, where he's trying to get to the bottom of the Cold Harbor completion. Cobell tells him that once he finishes Cold Harbor, that he'll need to get his ass to the black hallway and then to the testing floor. He'll be his Audi again once he gets to testing, where it'll be Mark's job to take Gemma to the severed floor, where he'll then take her to the exit. Now, girl, I would have to write all this shit down because it's a lot to remember and we only have one shot. This would all prove that Lumen kidnapped Gemma, which we know is illegal, which would then be the end of Lumen. But ending Lumen would mean ending all the Innies that Innie Mark has grown to love, and Innie Mark ain't having it. Devon then says that someone wants to talk to Mark. Cobell wants him to record his response and to step outside. Innie Mark watches Audi Mark on a camcorder where Audi Mark apologizes for creating him to be a prisoner. He wants to make it right. Innie Mark then films his reaction. As he begins to, he ends up outside of a cabin where he is now Audi Mark watching Innie Mark's response. Innie Mark, follow me, okay? Innie Mark says that he's scared and that his Innie life is all he knows and doesn't want it to end. The video ends there. Girl, Audi Mark then records his response, saying that he understands where Innie Mark is coming from. However, Lumen doesn't have to be his whole life. He mentions reintegration, which would entail pairing each other's memories so that they could then be one person. Audi Mark wants Gemma free and says that he wants to share his life with Innie Mark. He explains how reintegration would work. Innie Mark isn't fully sold. Audi Mark tells him how he lost his teaching job after mourning Gemma and showing up to work drunk. Lumen tried to cover up Gemma's disappearance. As we know, Audi Mark mentions to Innie Mark how he's aware of his crush on Helly. He calls her Helene, which, has anyone ever called her Helene? I'm like, fill me in. He mentions Helly in hopes of Innie Mark being able to relate to why he wants Gemma back. Innie Mark corrects his ass and tells him that her name is Helly and that he would have known that had he showed any interest in his life before needing something. Bitch, Innie Mark has doubts. Audi Mark assures him that he's being truthful, but Innie Mark thinks that once Audi Mark gets Gemma back, that he's going to dip out. He does not trust him, and girl, the last thing I thought I'd see was Mark arguing with Mark. Okay? Audi Mark tells Cobell and she wants to speak to Innie Mark. She tells Innie Mark that the MDR numbers from his console are a doorway into Gemma's mind. Innie Mark admits to feeling things as he looks at the numbers. Cobell says that every file he completed is a new consciousness for Gemma, which we experienced in episode 7. He's completed 24 files and Cold Harbor will be his last. He's pretty much being used. Innie Mark wants to know why Cobell is really there, which I still do not trust her as. Cobell tells him that there will be no happy ending for he and Helly and that she's an Egan. Innie Mark is in denial, girl, cause he is pussy whipped. Innie Mark storms out, but not before telling Devin that he better end up on the severed floor or Audi Mark will never see Gemma again. And I'm like, damn, Innie Mark, not you being a traitor. He leaves and ends up at Lumen. He sees a big ass, creepy looking ass painting with him in the center and everyone surrounding him. He's clearly thrown off by it, but soon after, Helly steps out of the elevator, but bitch, she has on a green shirt this time. And I'm like, I just don't trust it. They hug, but she's still just as confused by the painting. They say they have to tell each other something, but the lights shut off and begin to flicker. They walk into a room with a Keir statue. He's holding an envelope that says Mark S. Mark opens it and says that the founder wants to witness him completing the 25th file. Helly is to witness it from her chair. The note is from Milkshake. It has a paper plate and fork and knife in the back of it. They go to sit at their desk. Helly tells him about encountering Mr. Egan and how he references today as a special day. Mark says he knows why. Girl, we then see Milkshake's fine ass walking down the hallway. He meets Dylan at the elevator, which we're both guessing that his Audi didn't allow him to quit. Bitch, it's giving payback. He follows Milkshake down the hall. There's a sign that says the exalted victory of Cold Harbor. Girl, we then see Gemma, aka Miss Casey. She's looking at the clothes she wore the last night she was with Mark. Next, we see Helly and Mark. Helly doesn't trust Cobell. Mark says she seems different but the same. Different, same. And I'm like, Mark, please. Helly thinks they're screwed either way. We then see the nurse lady telling Gemma to just get dressed, that everything will be fine. Helly says that it's possible that Audi Mark isn't a liar. Innie Mark says fuck that he wants to live with her. And girl, I'm not gonna lie, he ate that line up. He ate it up. Helly says that she's her. And I'm like, Mark seems to be on board with Cobell's plan and proceeds to complete Cold Harbor. Next, we see Milkshake giving Dylan the response from his Innie. He leaves him to read it alone, but strangely sprints out of the fucking room. So weird and creepy. Girl, Audi Dylan told him fuck him for his actions with his wife, but that he also doesn't blame him. He hopes that one day Gretchen sees in his Audi what she sees in him. He tells him that he could leave Lumen, but that he hopes that he stays. Girl, next we see Milkshake's fine ass running down the hallway, ripping his tie off, which is what I needed all season. Back to Mark working on Cold Harbor. Helly's trying to think of places other than Delaware and comes up with Europe and Zimbabwe and then the equator. And I'm like, okay. She wishes they had more time. Mark completes Cold Harbor. Drummond tells Maurer to call Mr. Egan. The lights cut off while Mark and Helly are at the desk. Keir's statue begins talking. Saying that Mark has officially brought him closer to completing his grand agendum, which makes him one of the most important people in history. He tells Mark to celebrate with his floor manager. Milkshake jumps out. Now, bitch, get this. Milkshake begins speaking, and this robot of Keir tells him that he talks too much. Milkshake then claps back at Robot Keir, saying that he wasn't actually as tall as his robot. Listen, baby, y'all gonna stop playing with Milkshake. Okay, y'all are gonna cut that shit out. Milkshake has had enough. He then introduces a marching band to celebrate the completion of Cold Harbor. He's conducting it and he just looks so good, y'all. He really looks so good. Anyway, we then see Mr. Egan stepping off an elevator. Gemma is following Nurse Lady. Mr. Egan sits at a computer to take an efficacy test. The celebration continues on the severed floor with Milkshake, the marching band, Helly, and Mark. Mark tells Helly that he has to leave to go meet Gemma, I assume. But bitch, Milkshake starts dancing and I'm all eyes and ears. Helly and Mark plan to make their moves, but not before telling each other they're gonna see one another at the equator. Helly runs to grab Milkshake's radio while Mark makes his way to the hallways to meet Gemma. Helly traps Milkshake in the bathroom, which buys Mark time. Gemma and the nurse are walking to the Cold Harbor room. We then see Goat Lady with the goat walking down the hall. Helly's trying to prevent Milkshake from leaving the bathroom. She asks for help from the marching band, but they're too busy fucking it up. They were not stopping, okay? Milkshake opens the door and asks Helly where Mark is. Dylan then pushes a big ass machine against the door, preventing Milkshake from escaping. We then see Gemma enter into the Cold Harbor room where she transfers to a different identity, it seems. Mauer tells her to enter the room where she sees a crib. She approaches the crib. Mauer asks her who she is. She doesn't know. Next, we see Drummond as he's approached by the Goat Lady, who says that Mammalian's nurturable brings an offering, which is the goat. He says that the goat will be entombed with a cherished woman whose spirit it must guide to Kier's door. So are they sacrificing this goat? And bitch, apparently they are, because Drummond grabs a steel piece. We then see Gemma being told to take the crib apart. Next, we see Drummond as he commits the goat to Kier and his eternal war against pain. Goat Lady then asks Drummond how many more must be given. He tells her as many as Kier needs. Drummond then steps away as he hears Mark trying to get to the hallway. Bitch, he stops Mark and punches him in the forehead. Oh man, like damn Drummond. Mark bites his arm and takes his big ass down, but bitch, Drummond was just too damn big. He attempts to kill Mark, but Goat Lady puts a stop to that shit and pointed the gun at Drummond. He overpowers her, but bitch, she beat his motherfucking ass. Do you hear me? She has had enough. She almost shoots him, but Mark pleads with her not to. Gemma is still taking this damn crib apart as Mr. Egan and Mauer watches her. Mark now has Drummond's big ass hostage. They get onto the elevator. He's giving Drummond instructions, but next thing you know, he transforms to Audi Mark and accidentally shoots Drummond's big ass in the neck. Audi Mark exits the elevator and walks down the hall. Milkshake is still trying to escape the bathroom, but Helly grabs a horn and knocks his ass down. Milkshake informs the band to go back to their departments. Helly tells the band not to let Milkshake out or their asses are grass pretty much. She connects with them and tells them that they need to fight for their half-lives. Mark runs into the nurse where he tells her to open the door, but she refuses. He scares her off and manages to open the door himself. He goes inside where he finds Gemma. He begins explaining to her the life they shared. Mauer is trying to convince her not to listen, but Gemma takes his hand. Mauer and Mr. Egan are freaking out. As Mark and Gemma leave the room, Gemma transforms back to herself. She immediately recognizes Mark and they flee the scene as an alarm goes off. Mark and Gemma make it to the elevator as Mauer tells them you'll kill them all. I'm assuming he's referring to the Innies. As they're on the elevator, she transforms to Miss Casey and he to Innie Mark. They run down the hall in hopes of escaping. Milkshake is fighting for his life and escapes from the bathroom, but is met by Dylan and the entire marching band, where Dylan says, "Fuck you, Milkshake." Innie Mark gets Gemma to the exit. She tries to convince him to come, but he refuses and Helly arrives behind him. He now has a choice to make. Now, bitch, this has to be Helena's evil ass because it just feels wrong. Okay? Mark goes and chooses Helly and pretty much says, "Fuck Audi Mark." They run down the hallway holding hands. And that's it. That is it, guys. Okay? So, damn it, Innie Mark, this is how you do us. You know, next season could go in a lot of different ways. I'm glad that Gemma did make it out. But what does this mean for Mark, for Audi Mark? Is he officially an Innie? Okay, and is Gemma gonna go to the cops? Is this gonna like be the end of Lumen? I guess we'll find out. Let me know what you guys think.